So I told y'all I went to a indie gaming event local to NYC. I posted the interviews from said New York gaming event. It's on the Champloo channel now. But another thing that I do on the Champloo channel, well, more regularly, I should say, is talk about the different issues in Game Informer. And I say issues, I'm talking about magazines, not drama issues or just legitimate issues. I'm talking about the magazine issues. And I haven't gotten the I think this is supposed to be March, April issue, or no, the next one is March, April. I haven't gotten that one yet. This is a February issue, so obviously we're all behind. So let's jump into this. I don't have a ton to say with this one. We'll get into that in a moment, but first we got to talk about the cover. So obviously this is Game Informer issue number 375, with the front cover being 007 First Light, the upcoming James Bond game, which I can give y'all the release date. Oh my god, choking. I had too much chocolate. Coming out May 27th, as long as there's been no delays since this was published. But yes, we're gonna be talking about this issue. First off, with the cover, I always give my little notes. This is feeling very Uncharted-esque to me, very Uncharted 3, where Nathan Drake, the plane has crashed and he's walking out into the desert. I'm feeling that. I'm getting that vibe, and I think they did kind of mention that in the cover story for this. But I like it. I like it a lot, and the more I read about the game, the more I'm yeah, I should give it a chance. I should give it a chance. I'm feeling more excited about it. I don't know what to expect. Which can honestly be a great place to be when you're walking into a new game. So we'll see. We will explore more of that later this year. I don't know if it'll be on the release, but at some point, there's a lot going on this year. But let me dive into, let's see, my notes here. So I did things a little differently this time. I know I usually go my top 5 articles, but this time I decided to just list a bunch of interesting things about this magazine, since my top 5 articles, I'm I don't know if it's kind of limiting to all the interesting things that are in the magazine, but maybe the whole article itself I didn't find interesting, or I didn't necessarily want to highlight the whole article itself. So this way, I'm going to talk about a little bit of everything. So we're going to be getting to, let's see, Bit by Bit by Charles Hart. I've been saying Harte for the longest time, but someone said Charles Hart. I think it was Andy Cortez who was talking about Game Informer. And I was like, is it Hart? That would make sense. I don't know. I'm gonna go with Hart now. So if I was right this whole entire time, I was gonna be sad, but it is what it is. But yes, Bit by Bit is an interview about the 8-bit, or it was conducted towards the 8-bit big band, which I am a huge fan of. I listen to a lot of their covers, especially the Persona covers. I think that's how I got put onto them. And I'm glad they got their shine. I'm glad they got a Grammy. And also, it's just, let's dive into some of the interesting facts here. So the leader of the band, which is, I believe, the man being photographed, the conductor, is Charlie Rosen. And his main career is working on Broadway musicals and orchestrating them. So it's crazy to think that someone who's literally on Broadway starts a YouTube channel and seemingly, I don't want to say has more success through YouTube than through actually working on Broadway through so many different plays, but it's much more visible, at least to me. That's just crazy to think about, how these gaming communities were able to elevate these covers to getting a freaking Grammy. That's incredible, and they deserve it. The covers are amazing. And so Charlie got the idea to start the 8-bit big band from Kazushi Okimasa. who is a shamisen player that has a band that plays Nintendo songs with traditional Japanese instruments. And that is also kind of interesting. And I don't know if they have any online presence or anything like that, but I do want to look it up. That's also just cool that, like, you know, Charlie was inspired by Okimasa-san and was able to just take off from there. I don't know. See, follow your dreams, people. Follow your dreams. But that's what I had on that. This next article blew my freaking mind. Blew my freaking mind. So we have 80 million players, 5 boyfriends. I think that's how you say it. And then the subtitle is Love and Deep Space cast of perfect romantic partners is seeking new love across the world by Nicole Carpenter, who is a guest writer for Game Informer on this issue. I was not at all familiar with this game before reading this article, or at least if I was, I didn't know, like, the name. Now, I low-key feel like it might be a game we need to try on stream. So, Love and Deep Space is basically like a romance sim kind of game with these very, very gorgeous looking boys. A flavor for everyone, as you can see. But the main story of the game is like you're in a military force that's protecting the world from aliens. And then also dating these 5 dudes at the same time. I'm like, that's insane. That is crazy. And this is from Infold Games, which are the creators of Infinity Nikki, which is why I do see like the similarities in the character designs. But yeah, this is just absolutely insane. It's got 80 million players. Most of them are actually based in China, which is another interesting thing. And as we've been talking about the past couple of years, I think just how much like these Chinese developers and Chinese games are starting to blow up, if not globally, at least in the United States, and starting to gain much stronger influence. I'm really curious to see what that competition is going to bring to the games industry, especially in like, at least I think, I don't know if it's the game industry as a whole necessarily, or really like North American games industry, but things are not looking great, I'll just say. So I'm curious what that could possibly do for both consumers and developers, if it's going to help or hurt, and maybe not even neither of those. Yeah, just very interesting. So Love and Deep Space is considered the first 3D otome game, which is interesting. It's free to play. So ladies, if you're looking for a 3D otome game to play, this is free to try and play. Of course, gacha elements, but you know, you don't have to do the gacha if you don't want to. So the interesting things in this, there is a fall asleep with me mode. So more than 10.7 billion hours have been logged globally with the fall asleep with me mode. And it's basically just, you know, self-explanatory. You set up the game, you pick your bias. I learned that was a thing. I don't know if that's for like Korean like cultural things in general, or they made up bias, but your favorite boy is your bias basically. So you can tell your bias like, oh, let's go to bed, blah, blah, blah. And then they'll like go to sleep with you. And it's, oh, I think it's pictured like right here up at the top. I think you can see my mouse. Maybe, I don't know. But it's very interesting. We'll talk about the other feature too. So there's also a period tracker, as a menstrual cycle period tracker in the game, where your game partner comforts you on the days that you're menstruating. This is absolutely genius, almost to an evil genius level, I think, because you're approaching women and femme-identified people at a very vulnerable point and creating that attachment and that bond. I'm like, that's pretty genius. I don't know who came up with that. Actually, we do know who came up with that. We'll get to that. basically a lot of the dev team for this game are made up of women, and so a lot of these features, like the fall asleep with me mode, like the period tracker, those were created by those women who were thinking, like, if we wanted a game that speaks to like us and our needs, what features will we want to add to it? I don't know if I personally would come up with a period tracker, but I guess, like, if you're in a relationship and you want like an understanding partner and be able to comfort you during this time, like that does make sense. That does make sense. Or even if you're not in a relationship and you want that even more, you want that presence. And then the fall asleep with me is a similar thing with wanting the companionship. I don't know. That's just, it blew my mind. It blew my mind reading about this. And the last thing, which is just incredible. So the fan base for Love and Deep Space are apparently very, very, very passionate about this game. So much so to the point that on New Year's Day in 2026, this year, they rented a billboard in Times Square to show fan-made videos. So they drop real dollars to basically tell their bias, who are not real people, show off their bias, be like, no, this is my man, this is why I like him, blah, blah. I'm like, that's wild. That's wild. This is such an interesting medium. But yeah, y'all read more about it in 80 Million Players, 5 Boyfriends. It might be the most interesting article I read in this issue, I'm not gonna lie. Let's see, on to the next, actually easily following, The Grand Adventure. So this is tackling some games, or speaking to game developers in the adventure game genre, and defining what it is, and I guess what it could be in the future. This is written by Andrew King, who I believe is also a guest writer as well. So, John Ingold is a narrative director for Expelled. Let me get to the Expelled feature right there. It's an image of it. He said, in an adventure game, the story comes first and the gameplay fits itself around the world. And I actually really resonate with this. I think that's how I approach a lot of games. Like, I'm looking for a great story, and then I would love for the gameplay to match that. But I'm also willing to have gameplay that's like a little bit below my standards if the story is just that great. And an example of this, and y'all listen to me fully before you start judging, but an example of this is Persona 5. I loved the story Persona 5, getting to bond with the party members, like how everything played out, kind of like the high schoolers fighting against the adults. I think at the time I was like maybe in high school or just started college or something like that. So I was like around a similar age. So it really resonated with me. But I don't gravitate towards turn-based games. So luckily for me, Persona 5 is my favorite a favorite turn-based game. I think they do that system very, very well. But that was something that gave me pause at the beginning before I played it, because I'm like, turn-based, I don't know. And this is not to say that the genre is bad. I know that's a part of gaming discourse as well. But just for me personally, I don't find it always to be super entertaining. But there are obviously examples like Persona 5 where I do like it. So yeah, I really resonated with having the great story comes first and then like fit the gameplay around the story, rather than trying to make a super, super fun game and then figuring out how to fit story in between that. So, oh man, I am not sure how to say this name. I never look up how to say the names beforehand. I probably should, but Andrzej Clavins. I'll call them Calvinson. I'm not sure the pronouns, but Calvinson, co-founder of Color Gray Games, said, I have a hypothesis that a fundamental flaw of older adventure games was that they consisted of a series of one-off puzzles which did not build any kind of mastery in the player, as opposed to, say, a game like Portal. Therefore, at any moment, you could get stuck in the game by failing to read the mind of the designer and feel very frustrated. And oh my gosh, yes, this absolutely resonated with me. I think that's an issue I have with some of the puzzle games that I played, especially some of not even just puzzle games, but like older games that I played in the past, where they're not, and I'm not even actively thinking about this, but they're not building like on a skill or on like a certain kind of like gameplay pattern. So when they throw something completely out of left field at you, you're not sure how to approach it, because you're like, okay, well, the game's operated this way before, so I should approach it like this. But really, it has nothing to do with that either. So I think that that's something that game designers should definitely take forward into the future in general, especially if you're a puzzle game designer. Please hold this quote close to you. You have to, like, not necessarily feed the players all the information they need to solve a puzzle, but you have to train them how to solve the kinds of puzzles that you're trying to build for them, so that way they don't have this frustration come out of nowhere, like, what, this doesn't make any sense, like, this is not how the game was working before. But yeah, just great quote. And then I actually, for this issue of Game Informer, I was a little disappointed. I must admit, I was a little disappointed because the rest of this magazine, for the most part, is like 40 pages of upcoming games for 2026 and beyond that the staff is excited about. And I absolutely think that the list should exist. I feel like this would have been like take the top 10, maybe top 20, and put them in the magazine, and then the rest people can go to the website to read about. Because I'm curious what other stories they could have shared with us in February. Because they always, I feel like, I've enjoyed most of the stories that I've read in the Game Informer magazine. So just to go through like a top 40 list that I can find kind of anywhere, not necessarily the selection, but it's like, these are a lot. I think a lot of these games, a lot of people are looking forward to. So I don't know. I was a little disappointed with that, but still, I guess, I got a list of games I'm looking forward to on hand. So we'll list those out. And then I have one more, article to review or article to talk about. So my most anticipated games for 2026 and beyond, as written by the Game Informer staff. These are my selections out of their list. So just to keep listifying the list, we've got, of course, Grand Theft Auto 6, Tomb Raider Catalyst, which I believe is the new Tomb Raider that's coming out. Or no, is it the remake? Let me see. Return of the Tomb Raider, recent Game Awards. The first new, yes, this is the new Tomb Raider. Okay. Lego Batman, Legacy of the Dark Knight, of course, Densha Attack, which they actually dig a little bit more into Densha Attack in the next issue of Game Informer, which I started reading, so they seem to be big fans of Densha Attack over there. We got Phantom Blade Zero, Gang of Dragon, which is unfortunately at a questionable status, and we talked about this at, I forget, I think it might have been the partner direct when I was streaming with Ditch. Things going on. Pragmata. I'm actually, the more I see about Pragmata, the more I'm like, oh dang, I really enjoyed my time with it. I do want to come back to it. So I have to try and make time this year. Persona 4 Revival, Mixtape, Sorrows, Halo, Campaign Evolved, Fable, Mouse PI for Hire, which is coming sooner than you might think. They actually don't have a place on this list, I don't think, but that's also sooner than you might think. Marvel's Wolverine, Gears of War E-Day, Orbitals, and Stranger Than Heaven. So yes. Many, and that's only like a drop in the bucket. As y'all can see with these pages, the list was very comprehensive. But the final thing, let's see, here we go. Routine. The review for Routine by Wesley LeBlanc. I literally had not heard about this game until reading this review, and then I was confused as to why that was. But this was actually an Xbox exclusive last year, which maybe is why I had not heard about it. Xbox is, they're under new leadership now, so maybe the marketing will improve, but they struggle heavily with marketing. But to see that not only was this an Xbox exclusive last year, but then this is also given the badge for GI Must Play, I'm like, what? Where was the coverage? What is going on with this? I found it interesting that this game has it features more like tactile puzzles. So one example in this review you'll read is like you have to scan your badge or something at one of the doors, and so Wesley was walking around like, yo, where's my badge, like how am I supposed to find that? And literally, like, after taking some time to look down at the character model, like the badge is literally hanging off your shirt. Like, that's something that's kind of interesting, and I do want to see if I can find more info about it, or maybe a little video or something. I told Dig about it to maybe try and get him to play it, because the other thing is, it seems like it might be kind of spooky, and I'm like, horror and puzzles for me do not go well together. They do not mix for me. My brain turns off when I'm scared, so we'll see. Maybe Dig got me covered. But Wesley's review definitely sold me on the game. I'm very interested to know more, and I gotta put it on my list of things to look into. But yeah, that's gonna do it for Game Informer issue 375. I'm probably gonna do more. If you're seeing the VOD of this on the Champloo channel, I stream this live on my Twitch channel, swiper_ or twitch.tv/swiper_prime, which is also on YouTube. Swiper_prime. I'm gonna try and do this a little more. I don't know. I'm trying to find ways to make this process a little bit easier for me, because I want to get into more video essays, even just the interview that I was able to do earlier today, and yeah, just things I'm really passionate about. Of course, I love reading about gaming news, all things gaming, but it's not something that came from me. So that's what I'm trying to work on this year, especially. Kind of always, but this year especially, I guess. But yeah, for those on the Champloo channel, hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to hit the like button so that way this video gets recommended to more people like yourself. And subscribe so that way you get notifications on when the next video comes out. Could be a Game Informer review, could be a preview, could be anything. And until next time, hope you guys have a nice evening or night. Was enjoy it. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.